In the beginning, I was shocked.
Annie Branham grew up in a loving, supportive, stable home, but nothing could prepare her for the news her mother, Pam, was about to deliver about her father.
It doesn't match anything. There's no DNA that you share with your father. And it took me a minute. I was like, what are you talking about? What does that mean?
By a twist of fate, Annie's mother had discovered that Annie's biological father was really a technician at the now-defunct Reproductive Medical Technologies, where Annie's parents had received help to get pregnant 21 years ago.
I thought, oh my God.
Through Pam Branham's detective work, the family found out that Tom Lippert, a tech at the clinic from 1988 to 1994 and a convicted kidnapper, was actually Annie's dad.
You have to be insane. I have never in my entire life hurt anybody.
Hit the wall right here.
This is a story we did about Tom Lippert in the late 90s. Neighbors accused him of throwing rocks and terrorizing them.
Did you throw these rocks last night?
Absolutely not.
The couple thinks Lippert switched John Branham's sperm with his own.
It was hard at first to think that, who am I? I thought that I was this person, my mom and my dad, and now my dad is not my biological father. Who am I? Who am I?
A question about her personal core and questions with which Annie is trying to come to terms.
I understand that this happened to me, and there's nothing that I can do to change it, so why should I live my life any differently, knowing that this happened?
Meanwhile, the Branhams have a laundry list of questions for the University of Utah, who says they contracted with the lab, but didn't own or operate it.
My husband wants to know, where's his sample? Does he have a child out there that we don't know about?
And tonight the family is reaching out to other couples who were clients during Lippert's time at RMTI.
I don't think we're the only ones. I think we're one of many.
So many questions have come out of the chaos apparently created by Tom Lippert. But one thing is certain for this family.
We have really strong faith, and we believe that God's going to work everything for good, and He has, because we have her.
Strings of the cello weave through the life of 22-year-old Risa Bean.
It's one of the most important things to my life because it's one of the few ways I can actually express myself.
She's accomplished and poised, but before the music, a clamor.
I remember times of throwing tantrums, yes.
Risa as a young child, in video captured by her mother.
I took the video because I had taken her to her pediatrician. I had taken her to other people who kept telling me that nothing was wrong. This tantrum is what I experience 10 to 12 times a day. I remember those feelings of, I can't tell my parents what's wrong with me. I just don't know how to express it.
Finally, a psychiatrist diagnosed autism.
There's no doubt in my mind that the statistics that show that as the brain is forming in those early years, that's the time to intervene.
Soon, Scott Bean's little girl
my little sister's birthday.
had speech and occupational therapy.
She didn't know that.
And he could listen as she read a storybook.
I really did not have the vision of what she could obtain, of where her life would go at the age of 2 and 3 when we got her diagnosed. She's continued to exceed all of my expectations.
But perfect harmony over how to approach autism is not always heard. At the Capitol, perhaps a clash coming over how much insurance companies and Medicaid should cover treatment. Risa's simple pitch: help.
Parents of autistic children pay so much money that insurance doesn't cover. If legislation was put in place to help those parents, I think that a lot of problems would be solved.
She's gone from the floor to the stage in the concert hall,
What early intervention does for children with autism is it changes their life and changes the life of the family that they're in a way that nothing else can.
Not every child with autism will play in the orchestra, but a lone cellist may be a symphony of optimism.
Don't lose faith. Don't lose hope.
Seems like most people get themselves messed up on day hikes. They think, oh, I'll just bring a little bit and then cruise up the mountain. And all of a sudden they get themselves completely lost and they don't know how to get themselves back.
A photographer and I hit the trails in the late afternoon, imitating an all-too common scenario in the Utah backcountry. Hikers that plan to be home before dark, but don't make it out. Search and Rescue says people often get themselves more lost or injured by trying to work their way out in the dark. Well, we're losing light really fast now, and at some point we got to decide that we're not going to make it out of here tonight. When the sun goes down on a chilly April evening, the smartest choice might be to stay put. I think this is a good spot. What do you think, Paul? Davis County Search and Rescue is aware we're here and that we need help, but they're not coming tonight.
It's almost pointless to search at night. It's so difficult to find that needle in the haystack.
Fortunately, I spent a few hours with wilderness guide Dave Nisha before our hike, getting some survival tips for this type of scenario.
Make sure that you're taken care of as far as you're not going to die from exposure.
Being ill-prepared for a night in the woods, a fire would be critical to staying warm. There was plenty of wood, but after a heavy rain, most of it was damp. An opportunity to put one of Dave's tricks to work.
If you can get under a spruce, it's a shelter in itself. If it's downpouring rain, hop under a spruce, get really close in.
That's where we found small, dry twigs, thin as pencil lead, perfect to get our fire started. No need for primitive fire starting methods when you're prepared. Dave says having 2 lighters in any day pack is a necessity.
When you get a good fire going, if you know what you're doing and you know how to keep it going, having a tremendous amount of wood ready, you're doing all right.
Got big pieces here. We need to break some of those up. Fire was the X factor on this night, but the temperatures dropped to just a few degrees above freezing, and with little clothing, sleep was out of the question. I spent the entire night feeding the fire for warmth. In the bitter cold, that meant every few minutes, hour after agonizing hour, until daylight slowly lifted its head once again, giving hope we might soon get out of here. But in order for that to happen, we'd need a little help. So I just got a message on my phone from Davis County Search and Rescue, but my phone literally just died.
Protecting that battery life's a pretty big deal. So in that panic mode, don't call everyone you know and tell them goodbye.
With a dead cell phone, direct communication or tracking my phone's location was now out of the question. But fortunately, crews had been notified of our approximate whereabouts. And they were searching for us. Chris! Davis County Search and Rescue Commander Doug Shipley says another key to being found is staying on a trail.
I understand that, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, but that straight line can get you in a lot of trouble.
I'm hearing something out here. Just a few hours after the sun came up, the crews had tracked us down. Thanks, man. That was a miserable night. Turns out we weren't where we said we were going to be and had made a wrong turn along the way. But a little detective work by the pros led them straight to us.
We got your footprints around your vehicle at the bottom.
Experts say the difference between life or death when lost in the wilderness can be keeping a clear head, finding warmth, and making yourself visible.
Get something out of your pack or whatever and put it on the trail in case you were snoozing when we came by.
In more than 3 decades as a cop, Scott Peck has seen plenty of things he'd rather forget.
I see basically this skull split open from a kid sliding across the road. Final impact was his head hitting the curb where it stopped him dead.
Scenes like that made him question his lifelong passion.
I'm like, man, why do people even ride motorcycles?
Yet he says most such deaths are unnecessary.
About 90% of these accidents are preventable.
Wheelie at 100 plus.
If only the riders had better skills and could let up on the throttle. He says local riders love to race like they were shot from a cannon.
125 to even 150 miles an hour.
And his colleague Steve Olson says that's just up the local canyons.
When you have all that kind of horsepower, you want to use it.
Yet rather than putting down the kickstand for good, last year Peck, Olson, and 2 other lawmen decided to tackle the problem head on. So they issued a challenge. You want to race? Fine.
Come race a cup.
That's right. They'll race you. They'll even help you get faster, but only in one place.
Race us out of the racetrack.
They say it's a rush like no other.
Once you're there, you're hooked. It's seriously like crack cocaine. Once you taste it, it's like, I want some more of this.
And you don't have to worry about going home in a body bag.
A safe environment where they can go as fast as they want.
Over the last year, they've given a few people a taste of the track, but not a lot. It turns out that most guys racing on the streets are young and have a lot more horsepower than money. And racing isn't cheap.
That is the biggest obstacle.
But the cops weren't just going to hit and run after hitting a few potholes. They had to do something to prevent more scenes like this.
It's heart-wrenching just to look someone in the face and tell them that their loved one, their son, or their daughter isn't coming home is the worst.
So they decided to keep trying, reached out successfully to sponsors, and came up with another offer.
No wheelie tickets, speeding tickets, but in return they're going to get huge cuts to get the gear they need, and then they can go as fast as they want.
This is only set at 160.
They've put together some used gear to share as well, because they don't want to see a checkered flag until they know they've made a difference, until they see more young people out here and fewer here. Paul Sampson.
Success is saving a life.
2 News.